Hey guys, Smart Ninja 000 here. Today we're going to talk about the new things added in 1.13. Now I was rewatching it, the clips where they talk about the new Java stuff. I noticed there were some things that I was a little bit like I didn't really pay close attention to, mainly because I was focusing on the other stuff. But it is pretty interesting. So I'm going to show that off as well as all the things in case you didn't actually see it in today's video. So be sure to smash like, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment. Did you notice everything and was this a waste of your time, or did you see something cool that you didn't see before? So in case you didn't know, for 1.13 or 1.14 and 1.15, the update is called Village and Pillage. There's some more stuff, but the big thing is the new villages, as well as the villagers retexture. So we're going to go over a bunch of that. I'm just going to show this clip, then I'm going to go over some things I thought were interesting. Okay, so if we go back a bit, back to here. Oh.
Yeah, we have a video to show off some of my code.
So first thing I want to point out is the paths are too wide. I thought that was kind of cool. You'll also notice that even though there's grass, it's not solid the entire time. The other thing that was interesting is right here. Normally that is a black wool block, which you will see a little bit later, and instead it is now the stripped bark block. The church now, it's a little bit hard to see, but it is now using stained white glass instead of regular glass, and you can tell the difference because with Jasper's new textures, which this is by the way, this is much clearer in comparison to this. And the other thing I noticed that's a little bit weird, if you didn't, you might not notice it yet, but the villagers aren't using the new villager textures. It's instead just using Jasper's, which I thought was interesting. Here, I really like the use of the cobblestone and the mossy, but you'll notice it's actually nowhere else. If I am correct, it's nowhere else in the village, but right there. And even there, it's a little hard to see, so I'm assuming it actually generates with this structure, which I thought was pretty cool, as well as the fact that they use a lot of doors. 3 doors in one house? Come on. So here we are in the sand, and the first thing that stuck out to me, other than the fact that this was looking pretty cool, was the melon over here. There's a melon, it looks like a melon or a pumpkin, either way, and it can't actually be placed there. So I'm not sure why that's there. I'm not sure if that's a mess up on their part, or if we are actually going to get melons spawning here. And the other thing is it's very well lit, as well as this block right here. And this is actually smooth sandstone. And if I'm right, you can't actually craft this. Yeah, you can't craft any of it, so you cannot craft this, which I think is interesting. So we may be getting potential recipe for this, as well as the other smooth blocks, which are, of course, these. Now, quartz isn't actually anything special, but the smooth stone and the smooth sandstone are pretty nice looking. So that was pretty interesting to me. So here, if we go back, I'm not sure if this is Jasper's textures, but oh, it's going to take a second to load. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Jasper's textures, but I'm assuming it's not, which you'll see why in a little bit why I think this. But I think they are going to be doing something completely different with sandstone than we have right now, because the sandstone currently does not match this, which this is the block I believe it to be, while as this sand, you'll notice it does not match in comparison to what it other is. It's smooth on this side, which I thought was interesting. So you might assume this is just Jasper's retexture, but as you'll see in a little bit, there is still, now it's not exactly a solid block, but there is still the cobbly sandstone, like the broken apart in comparison to the smooth. Now, the other thing I noticed were these sandstone walls we're getting. The other thing I thought was funny is there's a sheep here. So is there grass in here? Because if there isn't, then once you shear the sheep, it's going to be sheared forever. But yeah, so there's sandstone walls being added, it looks like. And in case anyone's curious, here's a solid block of the cobble. It's a little bit hard to see, but it is there. It's the only one I actually see in this village, which I find a little bit interesting. Again, this smooth. And there's also, from the looks of it, no paths at all in this village. I'm not sure if they're intending that, if it's just the resolution being bad on YouTube. It is the highest, though, so... And once we go into a closer, you're going to really notice it right here. All sand, no paths. Again, no paths, but there is, of course, that. And again, no paths. So here's the new villagers, and the only thing I really found interesting with them, I wanted to go through the clip just so, in case you didn't see it. The only thing I found interesting with them is they're not in the new villages, first off, and second off, it's not using Jasper's new textures. You can tell that really obviously by the cobblestone and the planks, and of course the leaves. It's using the default, which I found interesting, just a little bit weird, honestly. And let's just go through them. I love this hat. That's really cool. And that hat too. Hat. Also eye patch. So this is cool. We're actually getting jungle villages, it looks like, as we have a jungle texture. The eye patches are so cool. I don't know why they have them. Doesn't really make sense. But the hats and the eye patches are like the highlights. It makes me question how they're going to do it. Is it going to be cleared out? Because if you've been in a jungle, you can see from the background. It's very densely filled. But if you look at this, it looks kind of cleared out, actually. And a bit of walls around it right by the water. I'm not sure if that's intentional, but it does look like it's cleared out quite a bit. So I'm not sure if we'll have, I'm assuming it'll be cleared out areas, but I'm not sure yet. I love this zombie. I just have to point him out. This doesn't really relate to any like major things coming out, but I thought that was hysterical. So here's the pillage part. These are pillagers, and they feature the crossbow and stuff. Here's the beast. Attacking a normal village, by the way. Now this was really interesting to me because in Minecraft we have something called the illusion villager. Oh. And now he is pretty special. He's not used in game at all. He is in game, but he is not used. He gives you the... Did I just fall through the void? So the reason he's special is here he's got his bow. It's hard to use him because if you notice, first off, he does that. But second off, he does give you blindness and stuff. And he puts away his hands once you go into creative, and I'm gonna die. I'm just gonna give myself a couple of golden apples. Here, if you guys can just... So you'll notice he's holding his bow sideways, kind of similar to where the other guys came from, look like, which I thought was cool. And obviously he's not using a crossbow; he's using regular bow. The crossbow's not been added yet, but I did think that was a little bit interesting and maybe some inspiration, as I'm assuming this guy will not be used at all and removed from the game. Now these builds in the background I found a little bit weird. The special builds. Just before, if we can skip to it without messing up. No.
Cool.
So here, this does not look like it's going to be added into the game. This looks more like a map or something built. And it looks like a full-on world. As you can see, it looks like there's beacons in the back and such. I do like the little buckle on his chest, but the way he holds the crossbow is a little bit strange. The beast, I think, is pretty interesting. So what I found interesting about this right here is, first off, the way they're holding their bow is kind of funny, because if you look at it just back the tiniest bit, we're not going to be able here. When this guy turns right here, you'll notice he only has one hand on it, which I thought was weird. But this looks something similar to a saddle to me. So maybe he can spawn with one of these guys on top of him and jockey around like the skeleton jockey, which I think would be kind of cool, but no idea. So again, you'll notice all these people have crossbows. There's not a single who has any other weapon. It seems like these are the only two at the moment. I would not be surprised if they added a third with something else. And this guy, it looks like he just breaks crops and attacks villagers. He's not too special. Sorry. They seem to really be focusing on the fact that he breaks the crops, I feel. I'm not sure why they do that, but it definitely seems like that. And again, I don't think this is anything special. This does not look like it will be natural terrain. I do like the fact that they have the little llamas here, because if you look over here, this looks very custom built.
That looks great.
Now, they do go in to talk about the enchantments, which I find pretty interesting, so we're going to listen to that. So here's a video of the crossbow real quick. So you already noticed right off the fact that this is a lot faster. The one enchantment, I mean. There's a triple shot. Here, this part, if you're curious about this part, I'm pretty sure if you just have a firework in your offhand, it will shoot it as though it's an arrow. Now, we can't actually tell if this uses up the arrow because they're in creative. And the animation looks a little bit weird, I think, but I'm not really surprised. And again, just another reason I think this is naturally built is the little scarecrows, as well as that looks like a cactus farm, maybe? Now, I would like to point out, I think it will work with the default bow enchantments, simply because of this little clip here. This might be a bug, but based off this, I think it will use the default bow enchantments.
That's cool.
Great. I think we can check that out as well. Show us the video of the crossbow.
So notice this enchanted bow, which we do not know what it has, and notice the arrows. The arrow count doesn't change as well. Right, got it. So right here, we don't actually see the arrow be used because it cuts away too quick. But here, you'll notice it does get used. This could be purely a bug and they just hadn't implemented it, but my guess is it is probably intentional. Now this is in creative, we don't know. This is also in creative. And this again, the same world. This is definitely not natural generation, simply because of the way it's built. Just more points towards that. Now, I could be very wrong about that. It could be simply, like I said, they just hadn't implemented it yet. Anyways, let's get on to the cats. So they talk about cats a little bit, and apparently they and ocelots are going to be their own thing. I'm not sure how this is going to work. Phantoms are scared of cats, which I like, but yeah, There's new textures and whatnot. I think that's pretty cool. They also talk about giving gifts, and here she starts talking about that.
Not diamonds.
Okay, cool.
More
She doesn't really say much, but here.
the cat kind of gets gifts now.
So my guess is the cats can go into the ocean and kill the new fish mobs that we got. I think that could be kind of cool. That seems the only logical choice of what kind of cat gifts they could give you. So here is the part with the pandas. Personally, I'm not in love with the pandas. You'll notice the bamboo is some sort of leafy thing on it. I'm not sure exactly what that is. You can see him eating it, actually. You also kind of see what the texture is going to look like when it's in your inventory. And there it is again. You also can see the baby panda for a second. Right there. It's hard to see. There it is again. And this looks smaller, so I think there may be 3 stages to panda size, but I'm not sure. Also, it sneezed, which I thought was a little bit weird. And you will notice it's now using the new textures in comparison to the very beginning, where it is not using the new textures. Right after there, it swaps from that one picture, which I thought was weird. You can also kind of see they cut off the hotbar, but that looks like swords or something. But they do switch textures in this quite a lot, and I'm not sure why. Also, little plants here, not sure what that is. And that's pretty much it. There's not a lot more after that. I went over what I thought. Again, I could be wrong with a lot of things. The bow thing I'm not sure about. I thought it was just a little bit weird how in one case it used up the arrows and the other it didn't on the enchanted bows. My guess for the third enchantment is honestly no clue, because we've kind of gotten what I'd expect as the enchantments. I do not really personally for the crossbows. Going to talk about them for a little bit, and that's what I meant. The fast seems a little bit weird of an enchantment. It seems a little bit cliche, like you'd expect it. So maybe poison, but again, we have the poison arrows. Personally, I think it would be nice if they used a different type of arrow, simply because it's supposed to be bigger, travel far, do more damage, maybe a bigger arrow to supplement that. And again, I would not be surprised at all if the 4 bow enchantments were put onto it. The infinity one kind of seemed to fit there. I'm assuming they'd want it to, there be a way for it to do more damage, which would make sense for the power, the punch, and the flame just kind of all fit on if they're going to do power. Or the so I'm not sure exactly. I would not be surprised at all. They didn't come out and say that though. And just kind of looking through our current enchantments, I have no clue what this could be. There's really no something big that's popping out of me. It obviously wouldn't apply a status effect or an attribute modifier, I'm assuming, based on the fact of the tipped arrows, so that kind of messes with that a little bit. Lightning would be a good guess, but we do have the trident that does that, so that would defeat the purpose of the channeling, I believe. No, is it channeling? I think it's channeling. Channeling enchantment. And again, other than that, not really sure. Could be completely wrong. I mean, we did get this thing, which gives you water breathing, so. But yeah. Anyways, personally, I thought this was an interesting update. I really liked pointing out the other things. They also mentioned scaffolding, which they talked about. They didn't show a texture or anything. And in case anyone's curious, my guess of what scaffolding is going to be a combination of this slime block and the chorus fruit. So what you would do is you build up with your scaffolding, maybe build out a bit, and it's used for this. You break the bottom block, and and it would all fall. And the reason I said it's a combination of the slime block is I would not be surprised if you did not take damage when you fell from it, or when you fell onto it. The other thing is, they said you'll be able to climb up it, potentially. I think I remember that. So, just a lot more added to it. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. We're just going to have to kind of wait for that. Anyways, tell me what you think. Leave your comments below, your thoughts, ideas, etc. In the description, and be sure to smash like if you learned something new. I'm assuming probably not all of you noticed the fact that they changed texture packs so much, or also the new cobbly walls for sandstone. I probably spent a little bit too much time paying attention to that stuff. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.